Another Dooley Noted podcast comes to you from the Coach's Podcast Room at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill in Celebration Point. Okay, and welcome into another Dooley Noted podcast presented by Titan MRI from the Meldon Law Gator Studios here at the Ponderosa. And we are going to have a great show for you today. Two guests today, actually. Laura Rutledge is going to join us for our usual segment with a guest, and then a special guest for Yes, No, Way, or Maybe. Jeff Cardozo is going to join us. Of course, he is in Omaha, so we wanted to get an Omaha flavor. We wanted you to feel like you were out there, and we will talk about that a little bit more later. And then Monday, Coach Spurrier will be in as usual, and that's always great. And on Thursday, Brandon Spikes is going to join us again, so that'll be fun to talk to him about some Gator football. We'll talk some Gator baseball as well, but we're getting to that point where we're kind of, we did have this talk the other day, Robbie and I did, about how I've had this epiphany about just trying to enjoy every day instead of trying to get to the next thing. Like, I don't want to get to Sunday and have, Father's Day is a great day. Yeah, I love Father's Day. I miss my dad. I'm always treated really well on Father's Day, but I don't want to I want to enjoy today. So I've been playing way too much golf lately. And it's funny because I'm not that good anymore. Yesterday I shot 38 on the front nine, yeah. So I'm not terrible. But I was thinking to myself, why are you so in love with golf? Why are you out here playing? It's 100 degrees. You're sweating all over the place. There's almost nobody on the course because they just sanded the greens. But you're out here playing. And I realized another epiphany I had. I'm playing for a lot of other people when I play golf, because people like Patrick Young, who used to love to play and now can't play anymore. People like my dad, who the last thing he told me about the one thing he wanted to do that he couldn't do was to hit a golf ball. People like Greg Larson and David Lamb, who passed away in the last few years. Of course, Lamb more recently. And guys I played golf with 100 times in my life. I could go on and on like that, but my point is, hey, if you're able to get out there, go play golf, go play anything, go do something that will make you think, hey, man, I know this guy wishes he could be doing this, and I'm playing for him. It's just a me thing. Maybe you don't need to play golf, but that's why I'm playing golf, because people have asked me, you seem to play a lot of golf. I'm like, I don't even post a score a lot of times. I just like to play, and I like to get out there and play for those people. Anyway, that seemed a little bit too melodramatic. Maybe we should cut that and we'll come back with a different segment. But instead, we'll just get right to it with our Process Service of Gainesville starting five. And of course, we appreciate Scott Hart and the Process Service of Gainesville for being a sponsor, as well as all of our other sponsors. Let's get right to it with number one, which is feel like something is crawling on my neck. Do you ever have that feeling? But it's just a nerve that's kind of ticked off. All right. So the number one story right now in Gainesville, Florida, is the buzz about baseball, and there is a buzz about it. You can't go anywhere without somebody asking you about it or talking to you about it or having comments about it. We'll have Jeff on a little bit later from Omaha, and how great that is that he gets to go out there and spend that time as well. But I do think the one good thing, like at first I was like kind of, there's nothing going on Tuesday, and all you have is the NBA finals on Wednesday, and they don't seem like they're going to be great. And then there's nothing Thursday, and finally you get a game Friday, but Florida didn't play till Saturday. But you know what? That's great, because we all get to breathe again. If you watch that game Sunday and you weren't affected by it physically, you just weren't paying attention, or you just don't care. But if you did, and I know 1,000 people who were exhausted at the end of that game, and I was too. I was just like, but we kind of needed a little break from it, just so we could like re-energize or recenter everything. We're not lucky. We didn't get to fly out on a team playing Wednesday like certain individuals did, but in a way that's good too. We could just kind of, But there is definitely a buzz. We'll talk to Jeff a little bit about some of the reasons that Texas A&M is going to be a problem on obviously Saturday night. We'll get to all that as well on our process service of Gainesville starting five. We'll get to number two, which is look, Jerry West passing away at, what was he, 86, I think. And obviously, you pass away at that age. The closer you get to that age, the more you get worried. But I got to say this, Jerry West, I've been trying to think about it. I think was my first hero. For a long time, I thought it was Carlos Alvarez. But then I started thinking, no, because the first time I met Carlos Alvarez, we were living in Dolphin Drive, or I'm sorry, in Sea Park. We were living on Dolphin Drive when I used to watch Jerry West play. Anyway, Jerry West was the first guy I loved. He was one reason I became a Lakers fan. Now, I'm not a Lakers fan anymore. I've dumped them, but it was kind of sad. And, everybody calls him the logo, but I'm glad that somebody, I can't remember where I read the story, that wasn't his nickname. His nickname was Mr. Clutch. That's what we called him. That's what Chick Hearn called him. That's what I called him. That's what Lakers fans called him back then, Mr. Clutch. Even though his teams usually didn't win at all, they did win a couple, but, they struggled because they always had to deal with the Celtics. But Jerry West was the most unbelievable basketball player I've ever seen. And I know people say, "Oh, what about Pete Maravich?" Okay, Jerry West was the best basketball player I've ever seen, actually playing basketball instead of just putting on a show. I've never been a big Pete Maravich fan. I was a fan, but then I heard some stories, and I'm not. There's nothing going on here. I'm just saying he was kind of a ball hog. Jerry West just wanted to win games. And it was sad that he's gone as well. What a rough time it has been to be a fan of LA, or living out there with what you've had. You've had obviously Bill Walton, one of the icons as we know it. Now you've lost the logo. You've had other things that have just been problems going on out there with different people not doing well, or you lost Ian Hurley. There's another loss right there. So they just keep losing people for some reason. But anyway, tough time to be an LA fan right now. Let's get to number three, which is the playoffs in the NBA going on. With other than the College World Series and the track, I want to give proper credit to the track trials coming up, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. I'm going to be watching that, but I couldn't even get through the Celtics Mavs game last night. I just don't care. And I guess because I know the Celtics are going to win eventually, and they won last night, and Jokic is mad. Luka Doncic is mad. I'm sorry. I think I said his name wrong. I always have a trouble with Doncic and Jokic. Like, I always confuse them because they kind of look the same to me. But anyway, the Lakers. I'm sorry. The Celtics were obviously they're so good, and they've done everything really well. Luka got fouled out, mad at the officials. There was one call we tried to bait a player into a foul that looked a little bit crazy, but he shouldn't have probably done that. But he's all they got. I mean, the one thing that I love about this is people are realizing that Kyrie Irving may be a great player, but he's not a great clutch player. He's not Mr. Clutch. Jerry West was Mr. Clutch. Boom, boom. All right, so that's number three on our process service of Gainesville starting five. Let us get to number four, and that is the U.S. Open going on right now. It always makes for an unbelievable Father's Day, in that nobody can say, "Hey, let's go do something." All you have to say is, "It's Father's Day. I want to watch the Open." And usually my wife makes this big, she'll have crab legs and stuff like that, and we'll just sit there and snack and watch the U.S. Open. And usually it entertains. Sometimes it's bad. I remember one year I was out in Omaha during the Open, and that was the year McIlroy won. I think it was Congressional, won by like 9 shots. The year that obviously the Tiger won at Pebble Beach by 1 million shots too. Not fun. Keimer won by I think 9 one year. But hopefully it's fun to watch, and hopefully there's people up there that we like to watch play. But just being able to wake up this morning and turn on the U.S. Open while I was working, loved it. It's by the way, it's on USA Network right now, and it will be on again. And I'll give you the times and everything a little bit later in the show. It's just fun. I love it. I love going to getting up and watching morning golf. And it does make me want to go play, and I may go play after this, to be honest with you. I do have to do radio with Robbie today on the tailgate since Jeff is out there, but Robbie and I will be doing it if you want to watch it. All right, and finally on our process service of Gainesville starting five, on Wednesday, Florida did announce the game times, kind of. A lot of flex games, 3:30 or 8. I'm like, hey, that doesn't mean that means you don't know when the game is. Just say we don't know when the game's going to be. But there were a lot of I think there were 3 noon games, and my first thought was, man, they are disrespecting the Gators, giving them 3 noon games. But Jeff pointed out, and then I started thinking about it. I go, the noon game is like the new prime time. I don't understand it, but if you've seen all those Big 12 games and they want to hit you right away. We've got the big game at noon. This is get you started watching things, and it's like they put big games at noon. So they have done that. Florida, Texas is at noon, which will be 11. Mississippi State's also at noon, which will be 11. And it's not ideal for players. But I always say this, guys, the other team is staying in a hotel too, okay? They're not sleeping in their own beds either. They're staying, which is the dumbest thing, really. But they're staying in a hotel too. They have to get on a bus. They have to go and warm up in a stadium the same way you do. They're going to have to pull their pants on, okay, one leg at a time. I just think that 11 o'clock excuse is lame, and I hate it when teams use it. But the bottom line is it's going to be a fun football season. I hope, and again, I know a lot of you hope Florida has a really good team and they play really well. Yes, we all hope that. Drastically, but I just hope it's an entertaining season, so it's just something to watch and not just want to go out and just lay down in the middle of the road after some losses. And I think I got to that point a couple of times last year. I just wanted to go lay out in the middle of the road and hope somebody ran me over. I didn't want to go through it anymore. So hopefully it's entertaining. It's going to be a fun schedule, and we'll see how the Gators do. All right, that's going to do it for our process service of Gainesville starting five. We'll take a break. We'll come back with the great Laura Rutledge, of course, from ESPN, SEC Network, former Gator, still a Gator, former Gator student is what I should say, former Gator announcer here at Florida, working over at with Steve Russell over at WRUF, which is where I do a lot of my work now. And so does Steve still. All right, so we'll talk to her a little bit later in the show. Jeff Cardozo is going to join us for Yes, No, Where, Maybe. Packed show, man. Get on board. Enjoy it, please. I'm telling you, it's going to be fun. We'll be right back with more on another duly noted, sponsored by Titan MRI and brought to you by Meldon Law from the Meldon Law Gator Studios.
Process Service of Gainesville offers a rapid turnaround on affidavits of service for Gator lawyers locally and nationwide. Our friend Scott Hart offers immediate responses on status requests and is a member of NAPS and FAPS. And he has been a part of the community for almost 2 decades. Need service? Call Process Service of Gainesville at 407-697-9592 or email shartgators, that's G8TR, at yahoo.com. And make sure you ask about the paralegal legal secretary bonus program.
Adams Rib Company has been a staple of Gainesville for more than a decade and a staple of the Dooley house ever since Kelsey's teeth came in. The first time I walked into Adams, I told my daughter that the green beans are always a test of a great barbecue restaurant, and they were perfect. You know about the ribs that melt in your mouth, and my favorite, the turkey plate. But be sure to go in on Fridays for Nana's Fish Nuggets. They will melt in your mouth. Adams Rib Co., a Gainesville great.
Meldon Law has been serving personal injury victims since 1971. In those days, Jeffrey Meldon's presence as an attorney in the music scene dubbed him with the nickname the hippie attorney. And although times have changed, two things haven't: our commitment to bettering our community by helping the injured,
Albert, are you ready to go to the game?
and our love for the Florida Gators.
If you bleed orange and blue, Meldon Law is the firm for you.
Okay, welcome back to another Dooley Noted podcast presented by Titan MRI from the Meldon Law Gator Studios. We appreciate our guest for coming on. She has been busy as always. She has more jobs than me and Jeff Cardozo combined, I think. Laura Rutledge joins us from, of course, ESPN, the SEC network. I mean, wherever I don't know where you're working now. You're working just about everywhere, aren't you?
I think I'm oversaturated, but yeah, NFL Live every day, and of course gearing up for a lot of SEC football coverage once again. I can't believe we're getting close to SEC Media Days, which is going to be even more interesting this year with Texas and Oklahoma officially part of the conference. But yeah, thankful though, either way. Anytime I start feeling like, man, I'm a little overwhelmed or stressed, I remind myself that this was like beyond what I wanted. I could have never imagined doing anywhere near all of this. So I try to just really live in a world of gratitude as much as I can.
Yeah, I do want to ask about your family. Obviously, Jack went through a little scare there,
Yeah.
maybe a big scare. But and Reese, we all see her all the time. But I mean, how's everybody doing?
They're doing great, and thank you for asking. Jack turned 1 on May 25th, so he's a crazy man. He is walking and / what he probably thinks is running. He's so fast, it's like I'm like questioning myself because I could barely catch up to him, and he just started walking. And Reese is a rock star. She's also excited about football season coming up, and it's funny because she keeps asking. She's like, when's football coming back? It's hard to explain to a 4-year-old why it goes away and then, and then comes back during one part of the year. But everyone's doing really well, and I appreciate you asking.
Yeah, and you don't want to expose her to the UFL, so you don't want her to watch that.
No,
That's
we
nice.
just leave that. Yeah.
Well, I mean, we talked about this before, but you have to switch your mindset because you're going from dealing with pros, then going back to college kids and pros. But now you're dealing with pros, then you're dealing with pros again because everybody's getting paid. So it's like I cannot imagine what football questions are going to be asked at SEC Media Days because everybody's going to talk about NIL.
I know. It was so interesting being at the SEC meetings in Destin recently and hearing from the commissioner and just talking to other members of the media, and everyone's kind of saying the same thing. It's like we don't really know what any of this looks like, and nobody knows what it looks like. And doesn't it feel like we've been saying that for the last, 3 years or so? And it's unfortunate because you want to talk about football. Like there's so much that's exciting. The playoffs expanding. We're going to have more teams in, more opportunity. Certainly from the ESPN standpoint, we're pumped because we get all the SEC rights this year. It's been kind of a long time coming leading up to that opportunity and that rights deal being signed. There's more money than ever, but yet to your point, it feels like all we're talking about is NIL. And one of the interesting things, just spending some time even with some student athletes and hearing from their perspective, some of the challenges they deal with and how different universities are managing it. I think that's a little bit of an undertold part of this story, but once again, this is like in the hands of Congress, which it makes it slow moving and ever present.
And they do have some other things to deal with. I mean, there are wars, there's an election,
Right.
But we want to get our football straightened out first. But it's crazy, and I don't know. Like I'm a believer that college football is idiot proof. That no matter how much they try to screw it up, I'm still going to sit there and watch that triple header on the first Saturday of the season.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, it's interesting because it does always feel like some of these stories slide away once we actually start to see the action on the field. And like I said, I think that will be more compelling than ever this season. Conference realignment, you're going to be like, wait, what conference is UCLA in now? Like there's so many different things that are not really at the forefront right now because of all the conversation around NIL and just the changes in general. But I agree. I mean, as much as we try to screw this up and people get involved and financial motivation is always going to be paramount, it's still college football, and there's still a nostalgia and a beauty to it that just can't be completely forsaken, no matter how hard we try to mess it up. Not we, but some people.
Yeah, we're not trying to mess it up.
Not us.
I was thinking about playing that game. Robbie and I are hosting the radio show today because Jeff is out, obviously, in Omaha doing play-by-play, and I know you're excited
Go
about
Gators.
Yep, you're excited about the Gators getting in there. None of us saw this coming, but they're there, and that's all that matters.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, I know.
Sully knows how to win there too, doesn't he? I covered their first ever College World Series win. It was probably my favorite event that I've ever covered. It was awesome.
Well, what I was going to say was that I was thinking about playing this game with Robbie where I go out of school and he's got to name the conference. And I don't think he could get very many of them. I mean, SMU, where are they? I have no idea. Where's Cal? I don't know. Where are they? I don't know. It's wild.
It'd be funny because I'm not sure I know. Like I was sitting there thinking about it the other day when I was going over some stuff for some college football content we have coming up, and I'm like, let me make sure I got my facts straight here. Like this is wild.
Yeah, and of course you don't know. Yeah, they got that quarterback in there. No, he got in the portal. He's now at Miami.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way anymore. But it's crazy, and we'll see what happens here with Billy. I know you're hoping that Billy does well here, and we just have to see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, he knows the pressure's on this year, right? And it was on him last year too, certainly. I really like him, and I think a lot of people would say that, people who have spent time with him, but yet at Florida, you have to win, and you have to win championships. And we keep saying that, and yet Florida hasn't done that in a decade, and more actually. So, especially in this world of college football where it actually isn't that difficult to get really good really fast. You have to have the resources, right? And so much of that is up in the air. But I just believe that there's still a powerhouse. They can still get to that point. And, we hope that Billy does well this year and is the right guy for the job. But, moving forward, it's like, it's time to win. And that's as simple as it gets, especially in an expanded college football playoff where it could be an even greater opportunity for a school that might not have gotten in otherwise.
Yeah, I remember when Jeremy hired, I think it was Pat McMahon, and he said, "Hey, look, we want to be in the College World Series every year. We want to get there. We may not win it every year, but we want to be there. We want the opportunity." And I think that's what Florida's got to get to, is where now that we have the 12-team playoff, you don't have to win it all every year, but if you sitting there, so. We'll see how it all goes, but it is hard it's hard when you walk into a bad situation. You got to make it great, but I think that a lot of people behind him and agree with how he's handling it.
Right. And when you have to completely rebuild a culture and to your point, remake what was there, that's going to take time. And I think most reasonable people, most reasonable fans understand that. But, there is a certain time frame where you say, okay, we should start to see, a lot more improvement, and we should start to see a lot more promise, right? And the other problem with a rebuild or a remake of sorts is you fall behind, and the Georgias of the world continue to get better. And certainly we'll see what Alabama is capable of. It's interesting now because we're not going to have the East and the West in the SEC, but the schedule's so difficult for every single team. It's going to be an absolute gauntlet. And I think that's where, as much as you want to give some leeway and some credit, you just can't keep falling further and further behind, especially in the state of Florida. It's already competitive anyway when it comes to recruiting and NIL and transfer portal and everything else.
Yeah, my theory on Florida is that if Billy Napier is let go, the next coach they need to hire has to have some screws loose, because every coach that's been successful here didn't have them all quite tamped down, Like Urban, I mean, was a little bit off, and,
Yep.
of course,
Spurrier.
the world could win, so
Right.
we'll see how that goes. Hey, let's talk about the NFL. And I mean, what was it like for you when you started doing NFL Live and now you have to be the expert on it? And, you'd known college football obviously very well. Was that hard for you? Was that work for you?
Yeah, it was certainly a daunting task. I felt like I'd always followed the NFL, but to really dial in on it and to be covering it every single day, and to really be, the NFL show of record for the largest sports network in the world, that was intimidating. But I think what I found is my connection to college football, and especially the SEC. There were so many of these players that I already knew, and I knew their stories, and I probably knew more about their background than anybody who had been covering the NFL, because they didn't know their high school and college days as well as I did. So I leaned into that, big time. And then just over these last 4 years, we relaunched the show in 2020 with sort of our revamped cast. It's just been every single day, and really committing to that work. And I firmly believe that, I'm always going to be a work in progress. So trying to get better every day. I nitpick the heck out of myself. And if I ever stop doing that, then I don't deserve to do this job, because anybody else could get in there and be really committed to it as well. So I don't take it for granted, and it's a daily effort to make sure that we are not only just, up on every single thing going on in the league, but what are we teaching people? What are we doing that's going to be a different angle on the same story that we're talking about over and over and over again, especially this time of year. So it's a constant challenge. Aaron Rodgers, exactly.
Let me ask you this. Who was the person that influenced you the most about your career and got you where you are today? Who was that? I mean, other than me, but I mean,
Well, you deserve a ton of credit. Truly. I'm not just saying that. Going back to my days at Florida, and I've shouted him out many times, but Steve Russell was kind of who gave me my start at AM 850 back in the days when it was AM 850. So I always, point to him. But I would say in the more recent years, Mike Greenberg is somebody, I was on Get Up for a couple of years. I learned a lot from him sitting next to him. Paul Feinbaum, who was so gracious to let me sit with him on his show. He just definitely did not need a co-host by any stretch of the imagination, but he let me be there for 4-hour shows, which you do a 4-hour show, and this from doing radio all the time. It's like, you got no choice. Like, you got to get pretty good, and you have to get better, because you're doing it over and over and over again and for long periods of time. So I would say that those are two who, extended an opportunity to me, and I had to meet them there. I had to meet them at the moment, right? And make sure that I took advantage of it. But they really influenced a lot of what I do. You can watch, I'm nowhere near Mike Greenberg or Paul Feinbaum, but you can watch some of the things that they do, and you might watch how I am on TV and be like, oh, I could see, maybe she took that from that person. And, certainly imitation's the sincerest form of flattery. And, a lot of what I do is learned from people like them.
well, yeah, just don't learn from Tebow. That's all we know for sure.
Well, I couldn't try to be like Tim, even if I tried. Like he's just his own, and
Yeah,
he's a national treasure for it.
unbelievable. His popularity still hasn't decreased. But I did mention this on the radio the other day. I think Caglione is gonna kind of get into that T-boat area, where he can walk down the street and everybody's women are fainting, and so they're leaving
Well,
his muscles are, and
it's going to be interesting. I mean, if Florida makes a run in the College World Series, and certainly he'd be a big part of it, I do think his popularity will grow, on more of a national stage. It already is, he's already, but the College World Series and just the way that people dial into Omaha, I think could be a great opportunity for him.
well, I know you miss seeing Tim. You haven't been able to see him in a while. Not doing that, but
I just did his he does an amazing charity for his foundation charity event. So my husband and I went to that in March, which was great. So because normally you're right, I wouldn't see him, for a long period of time. And totally, it's like when you're with somebody every single week of the fall, and then you just don't see him for a long time. I would definitely miss him. But I'll get a big dose of Tim when August and September hits.
yeah, well, you'll have enough of them, believe me.
Right.
Before I let you go, I wanted to ask you about this fall with ESPN and how you're going to balance that and what you may be doing with them. Are you going to be sidelined? Are you pushing to do some analyst work, or
Yeah,
where?
so my role, it'll be similar to what it's been, where I'm doing NFL like Monday through Friday. And usually I travel to the SEC Nation site on Friday. So like early Friday morning, so that I don't miss the NFL show, up until that point. But we don't know exactly how we're going to do this, because ESPN will now have the 3:30 game, and they may push some of those games into prime time, and some of that depends on where College Game Day goes based on what we'll do. But there will, I'm sure, be some double up opportunities, just because we want to be at the best games, and you can kind of look at the schedule and see where we might be going. But for me, I think it's just about, and one thing that I've communicated constantly to my bosses is just wherever the most important college football moment is, especially in the SEC, that's where I want to be. So there may be some sideline in addition to hosting SEC Nation. I always do the college football playoff sideline. I've done that every year since it started, basically. Well, since I guess 2016, 2017. So anyway, we'll be doing that, but who knows? I think it's going to be, kind of all hands on deck, because I'm not sure people have like really wrapped their mind around this. I mean, we're going to have all the games, so many of the games, and they're going to be on all the different platforms within the Disney family. So it's going to be really, really cool. And just a really cool moment, I think, for the SEC and for the SEC network, and coming up on the 10-year anniversary. It's crazy to think. I started at ESPN when the network started in 2014. I was 25 years old, and it was like a great opportunity, but I never in a million years would have imagined the way that the whole thing has grown for everyone, and so many people that started with that initial group, Marcus Spears, of course, Tim Tebow, Maria Taylor, Joe Tessitore, like everyone's gone on to do great things. And then there are a few of us that, we still stay very attached to the SEC network, because especially in my case, it's really important to me.
Well, Laura, you're important to me, and I appreciate you being on and coming on the show. I'm sure we'll see you in this. I'm sure we'll probably see you speaking to the quarterback club again. We've done that before.
I would love to. I can't wait to do it whenever you guys need me. I need to come in person, though. We got to work on that.
Well, you got a long way to come.
I know.
It's kind of a long drive for you.
That's true.
If you wanted to go from the Florida Panthers game to Edmonton for the next game, it was 45-hour car drive. So if you were thinking about that, you may not want to do that.
I'm gonna file that one away as probably a no-go for me.
Wear those astronaut diapers, I guess, is the
yeah, right.
Thank you so much. We'll be back with more of another duly noted podcast presented by Titan MRI from the Meldon Law Gator Studios.
Titan MRI, North Central Florida's premier independent diagnostic testing MRI facility. At Titan MRI, we're focused on you, the patient, having a great customer experience. Our MRI equipment is modern and 75% quieter than any unit in its class. And our MRI unit has one of the largest openings of any of the newer high-strength MRI units, which allows comfortable scanning for potential claustrophobic and larger patients. At Titan MRI, we look forward to serving you.
Great food, great atmosphere, a diverse menu, everything made from scratch, plenty of space, and locally owned. These are all the characteristics of a great restaurant, and you can find each and every one of them right here in Gainesville at Ballyhoo Grill. Ballyhoo Grill prepares all of their food fresh every day, from their salad dressing to their award-winning soups. Bring your family and enjoy dinner under the Tim Tebow Tiki Hut while listening to live music. Or if you're running low on time to eat out, they also deliver through Uber Eats, Bite Squad, and Postmates. A Gainesville staple that's been open for over 30 years. Check out Ballyhoo Grill on Facebook or at ballyhoogrill.com.
Another duly noted podcast comes to you from the Coaches Podcast Room at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill and Celebration Point. You can watch and listen to us on Facebook and YouTube for every podcast that we do on Mondays and Fridays at 2 o'clock. Listen to the podcast whenever on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Overcast, any of the other 39 platforms where you can find this podcast or your favorite podcast. Remember to like, follow, and subscribe. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comments section below or call me if you want to do some advertising at 352-317-3444. Okay, and welcome back to another duly noted podcast presented by Titan MRI from the Meldon Law Gator Studios. And usually we have Robbie Andrew on for Yes, No, Where, Maybe, or the guest that we have. But today we wanted to go to the source. So we are getting Jeff Cardozo to do Yes, No, Where, Maybe, because he is the voice of Gator baseball, which is something to be said. And you've that has allowed you to have many trips to out to Omaha. How many trips is this for you now?
Yes, will be this is 11 total. One is a player, and then 10 is I guess a broadcaster. So pretty crazy to think about. I was talking some people last night at dinner, and they're in the 4s or the 5s, but 11. I actually passed Mick last year. Mick had gone 10 times over the years, so I was teasing Mick earlier, texting him this week, and having some fun with it. But spoiled for sure.
Yeah, I counted mine up today. I was just curious, and I think 8 was my answer. So you've already passed me. Of course, I don't go out there anymore, but it's certainly interesting, and it's going to be kind of.
You still passed me on the golf course though, so you're good.
I don't know about that. I did play good yesterday. I got to warn you about that. But I will say this: it will be a different Omaha for you, because usually when you're out there, LSU's out there, and they're raising Cain and yelling at you and stuff like that. But I don't know. You've got another rival in Florida State, of course, and all the SEC schools that are out there. So there'll still be probably some bad blood.
Yeah, I think so. And it's Kentucky's first time, so I would assume their fan base would show up. Tennessee really thinks that they can win, so I think their fan base sort of takes over. A&M's going to travel well, Gators' first opponent, so I would expect a lot. And then, Florida State not even getting into the tournament last year, I think some of their fans will be pretty excited. So it's cool. It's a different field. You don't have that dominating fan base, but I think a lot of people will show up and be ready to go and get after it this weekend.
Have you been to that store to get those irregular T-shirts yet, or?
No, not yet. That's we'll venture out today after a little breakfast.
Yeah, look, I want to see because I told you the story about buying a Packers division champions from 3 years earlier, but it was a great shirt. So
Heck yeah.
A long time. All right, let's play Yes, No, Way, or Maybe with Jeff Cardozo. It is brought to you by Big Mills Cheesesteak, and he is also coming to you on the Big Mills Cheesesteak Zoom line. Of course, street dining done the right way. Jeff knows that. He's a big fan of Big Mills and a big fan of Keith Miller. So
very much.
We are ready to play Yes, No, Where, Maybe. All right, number 1, Jeff Cardozo. Florida wins at least 2 games in Omaha.
Yes. The first one scares me, I think, a little bit with Texas A&M. Got a really good left-hander, and they've got a guy in the bullpen, and Chris Cortez, who dominated Florida. He was lights out in the Super Regional too. So a little scared of the first game against A&M, but I think then after that, I think Florida would handle NC State or Kentucky, and then be able to get another one after that once A&M doesn't have their top guy anymore.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing about Florida is I think if they can just get through that first game somehow, find a way to win that game, man, they're in the catbird seat. And who thought we'd be saying that?
Yeah.
Weeks ago, we were like, we don't, a lot of us were very discouraged about where they were going. But yeah, they could put themselves in good position. You know how important it is to win that first game.
Sure. Yeah, and get a couple of days off. If you win the first 2, it's very similar to what a regional is, and you get those first 2, you're pretty much in the driver's seat. But it'll be interesting. I think that the unique part is you've got the top 4 national seeds, and then Florida State's in there, and NC State's in there, and Virginia's in there. All these seeded teams. So the Gators are the only non-seeded team in this whole tournament, which is kind of crazy to think about.
Well, is it Florida and Virginia the only 2 that have won the whole thing that are there?
Correct. Yep.
So that'll be interesting. All right, number 2 on Yes, No, Where, Maybe. We had this discussion the other day. You still think that Joey Chestnut being snubbed is a bigger deal than John Rahm not playing in the U.S. Open?
100%. Yes. Times 1,000. I mean, there's a lot of other golfers out there that are going to draw attention and do different things, and have storylines for. And I mean, one of amongst 80 or 90 is not really a big deal. I don't think a lot of people care about John Rahm anyway, but all of America cares about Joey Chestnut. I mean, this is a 16-time champ going after it, and not having him a part of the hot dog eating contest is, I think the viewership's going to really go down. Like, why would you watch it if he's not a part of that thing?
Well, the why you would watch it part is the first thing I would ask you. But
It's
it's not
it's
my
good,
favorite thing, yeah. But I
but
mean, I've eaten a lot of hot dogs before.
a definite yes.
Okay, all right, and finally, number 3 on yes, no way, or maybe. U.S. Open going on right now. Tiger makes the cut. Yes, no way, or maybe.
Yeah, I'm gonna say no way. I know he birdied the first hole, but after that he's struggling. He can't make any putts. The greens are really, really hard, a lot of false fronts, it looks like, and it just doesn't seem like he's into it, or able to do anything. So it's tough to see. But again, I'd rather watch Tiger than John Rahm, at least to create that storyline. So
You'd rather watch
he's in
Tiger than
there.
Joey Chestnut too?
Yeah. So yeah, I think it'll be interesting. As long as you don't want Florida State to win out here in Omaha, and then you don't want Brooks Koepka to win. There'll be too many Florida State dominance.
Rooting against them, yeah. Have fun out there, and I mean, I know how it is. Having been out there all these times, you don't know what to pack. Do you pack for 4 days or do you pack for 14 days? And
Yeah,
that's a crazy thing. You may have to do some wash, and I think there is a wash at that courtyard too. So
there is actually one on our floor, but I did prepare for the long haul, so I've got at least 14 days worth of t-shirts and shorts and underwear, so ready to go.
it's especially good that you have the underwear. All right, Jeff. Always great talking to you. Have fun out there in Omaha. All
All right, thanks, Jules. See ya.
right, thanks. All right, great. Thanks to Jeff for getting up this morning because don't forget out there it's a lot earlier than it is here. Well, it's an hour early. It's not that bad, and I know he's going to have a good time out there. I know for Jeff, this has been a emotional because he cares about these guys and he knows the players. He knows Sully better than anybody. Although I'm pretty close with Sully, for him to be out there is really cool. Even though he's been out there, like he said, this is his 11th trip. I just still think it's cool for somebody who cares about Gator baseball as much as he does to get paid to go out there. And I'll get to that in a minute. I've got a little segment on that. And there's a this, that, and the other we'll get to in a minute. Okay. Right now, though, we need to get to three things. It is brought to you by Hesser and Kipke. You guys know that Hesser and Kipke is a Gainesville law firm specializing in the areas of family law and workers' compensation. If you're a loyal listener of this show, and you should be, you know who we are by now. If not, Google the firm, check out the reviews, and hear what our clients have to say. Ken and Jennifer can be reached 24/7 via call or text at 352-339-9920. That's 352-339-9920. The great folks at Hesser and Kipke, and we appreciate them. Let's go to the three things. Number one is the Lakers are now set to interview J.J. Redick, which, of course, was the guy that was rumored to be getting the job in the first place. But then this whole Dan Hurley thing did happen. I'm like, okay, so J.J. Redick, because what, you like him on TV? Hasn't coached ever. Not high school, college, NBA. But I guess he's the guy that LeBron is trying to handpick. It's so messy out there. And that I have noticed that a lot of different sportscasters have been talking about how it's not that great a job. The Lakers job, which you would think would be one of the great jobs in sports. And I think the same thing about the Cowboys job. I don't think the Cowboys job is a great job. You got an owner who's a GM who's constantly meddling. You got expectations with the fans that's out of whack. You haven't won anything in forever, and yet you think you're supposed to win every year. That's the Lakers. They're the same way. Those jobs are hard, and Florida is a tough job. It's not an easy job. When you're questioning whether a school has like a great job, it depends on how you want to go after it. In other words, how are you going to be in that job? Well, J.J. Redick to me sounds like the biggest disaster waiting to happen. Dan Hurley, I didn't think was going to work either. Why don't you go get somebody who knows what they're doing about college, about National Basketball Association? But I don't care. I hope you stink and suck and do all those things because I don't like you anymore. I used to like you a lot. All right, let's get to number two on three things, and that would be they put Tom Brady's they put him into their Hall of Fame, and they retired his jersey, so nobody will ever wear number 12 again. Of course you're going to do something like that. They also are going to do a 12-foot statue of Tom Brady outside Gillette Stadium. It seems kind of big. I don't know that anybody deserves a 12-foot statue. I think that's the size that Hussein's was when they pulled it down. It was about 12 feet tall. I wouldn't want a statue that big. I think the statues that Florida has out there are perfect. I believe there should be more around campus. I believe, and I'll believe this till the day I die, that they should have a Mouse Holloway statue over there somewhere. I believe that they should have a Lauren Hager statue at softball, and then we can talk about baseball. You can make an argument for a lot of guys, so then you get into that. But there should be a ring of honor for baseball, at least college Gator baseball. I mean, some kind of a call it the diamond cut or whatever. And first class would be these four guys: Zunino, Wilkerson, Caglione, Langford. Boom, those are my four. And then you start bringing in the Mark Valdez's and the obviously Brady Singers. People like that. You can make arguments for guys like Mark Ellis. And I know they go into the Florida Hall of Fame, but I've said this before. Do you know where the Florida Hall of Fame is? The University of Florida Athletic Hall of Fame. It's in the Touchdown Terrace. That's the only place. Then they got these pictures up there. That's it. That's the only place you see it. So what? to me, it needs to be illustrated better. I've got a lot of ideas over there, Scott Strickland. I'll come talk to you. I think Scott's going to come on in a couple of weeks. We were going to get him a while back, but he was busy. He had to do something. I think he was busy with being on the baseball committee. I think that's what it was. Anyway, that was number 2 on our 3 things with Hesser and Kipke. Number 3 is another person who passed away this week, Homer Rice. Now, Homer Rice was 97, lived a great life, coached all over the place. And the reason I bring him up is people really think he has a lot to do with innovating college football from a inspirational way, the way he was able to get to people. And you hear, if you've ever listened to Rick Neuheisel on Full Ride on Sirius Radio, which I listen to all the time, and I'm a big fan of Rick Neuheisel's, he talks about Homer Rice a lot. And the saying that Homer Rice had was, "Get yourself together." And I know that he was sad to learn that he had passed away, but get yourself together is a kind of a good motto to go through life with. Get yourself together, Pat. Put on a real shirt next time. No, it's just, I was in a mood to wear a t-shirt. You can only see me from here up. So get yourself together, though. Homer Rice, 97, and a real influential person at a lot of different schools and a lot of different places. He was a big factor in a lot of coaches' lives. So sad to see that happen. Okay, so that's 3 things brought to you by Hesser and Kipke, as they always do. Let's get to our Adams Rib Company Gator of the Week. And you say, well, how can you have a Gator of the Week? Nobody's playing. Well, yeah, somebody's playing. You know who's playing right now? Parker Bell. Parker Bell, of course, is a rising junior at the University of Florida. He is in the U.S. Open, and guess what he did today? He made the first birdie of the tournament. So Parker Bell, congratulations to you. I mean, starting with the birdie, that's pretty nice. And the first one of the tournament. And of course, he'll be back playing for Florida next year. Hopefully, he's had some great off seasons, but he's done really well. So Parker Bell is our Adams Rib Co. Gator of the Week. Go over to Adams, get some ribs right now. Boy, that would taste good. I think the golf course is on the way out to Adams. I may have to stop by there. And speaking of great food, I need to get a chicken parm from Leonardo's, because that's where I always get when I go there. They don't even ask me my order. They just put it down with a Vega, and that we've got our day planned out. But Leonardo's at Millhopper Quick Picks is going to be, well, it's going to be pretty simple. Is Florida still alive in the NCAA baseball tournament on Tuesday morning? Okay, now that would mean they have to win 1 game. So that's all I'm asking you. Will Florida win a game? But are they still alive on Tuesday morning? Now, we could get drastic rain and not play any games, and Florida would be alive with no games. So that may be the way to go. However, they also could lose both games. Like we said earlier, they could easily lose to Texas A&M, and then whoever they end up playing the second game. These teams are there for a reason. They're the 8 best teams in the country. They're all from power conferences. Most of them have been there before, other than Kentucky. Many of them are hungry to get their first one, and that's the thing. Florida and Virginia are the only 2 that have won a national championship. If I was going to bet, I would probably bet against the former winners. I mean, I'd take those 6 teams. They may be the better teams even. But here's the thing. We have no idea about these Gators, man. We have seen this team at its worst, and we have seen this team at its best. It's been at its best lately. They are the underdog in this tournament. They have the worst odds of winning the whole thing. Fine. What do you expect? They were 1 game over 500, of course. Now they've won 5 in a row, and they're hot, and they're hitting, and they're pitching, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. Like I've said, house money. Just have fun, guys, and enjoy it. Enjoy the experience, and hopefully you can win some games. And if you do, look, I'm not even going to talk about Florida winning the College World Series unless they get to the finals, and then I'll talk about it. But right now it is just enjoying the experience and building on what you've done for next season as well. this is a team that's got a chance to be really good next year. So anyway, but that is your Leonardo's and Millhopper quick picks. Is Florida still alive on Tuesday? Let's move to our swamp games of the weekend, and I know you guys are going to be out there. Because look, I have the luxury of the 2 TV setup right here in my room, right? So I'm going to be sitting here watching golf on one channel and baseball on another pretty much all weekend. But a lot of you don't have 2 TVs, so you probably need to go to the swamp. You definitely need to go to the swamp. First of all, great food, great atmosphere, great drink specials, and you get to watch both. You get to watch golf and the Gators, golf Gators. Although actually, on Saturday it's timed up so that as soon as the golf's over, you just can switch to the Gator game. So. But the swamp is a great place to go, and obviously all weekend there are going to be all kinds of stuff going on. Let's just give it to you. Friday, obviously the first game is at 2:00 at the College World Series, North Carolina and Virginia, and then the second game is a Tennessee FSU game at 7. I want to watch that game. I will tell you that. Saturday, Kentucky NC State is a 2:00 game, and of course Florida playing Texas A&M at 7:00, primetime game. That'll be a lot of fun. Sunday, loser versus loser in the first game, and that's the loser of the first game of the year of the season or of the College World Series. So that'd be the loser of NC State, Virginia, or NC Virginia. And then the winners play at the 7:00 game. Kind of weird there. Everything's weird about it. All right, so we have that going on. Golf Friday, I'll give you 1 to 7 is on NBC. No USA tomorrow, but Saturday there is on USA 10 to 12. It'll be on USA. So if you want to get up and watch, somebody could make an early run, or maybe you want to see a certain golfer. Today it was so great to watch Tiger Woods not play well again. And then Saturday's 10-12 on USA, and then 12 to 8 on NBC. Sunday 9 to 12 on USA, and 12 to 7 on NBC. So it's great to hear Gary Koch on there too. Gary, I thought had retired, but I think they're bringing him out for some of these big events because they're not really sure what they're trying to do there. But at any rate, it's great to hear him on the broadcast. So and track Saturday night is the trials. So I don't know the whole schedule there, and I'm not even sure they published a schedule like that. But there is going to be something going on pretty much all day Saturday. ESPN 2, I believe, will carry it. And we want to see how Grant Holloway does. We want to see how everybody does. Parker Valby, everybody. So it'll be a lot of fun. All right, that is our swamp game. Those are our swamp games of the week. Get your verbs to agree there, Pat. All right, let's wrap it up with this, that, and the other. This, that, and the other, as always, is brought to you by the Ironwood Golf Course, by Ballyhoo Grill. We were there just the other night, had a great time. And, of course, by Darshackow Insurance for all your insurance needs. Appreciate our great sponsors, all of our great sponsors. So this, that, and the other. Yes, I love the College World Series. I think it's way better than the Women's College World Series just because the stadium is so nice now. Now, I will say the Rosenblatt had history, but it wasn't the nicest stadium in the world. It was okay, though. Still better than softball's. Softball's gotten better, but there's nothing cooler than being at the College World Series. And it's the first time I went in 96. I think I was kind of overwhelmed by just being there. I didn't expect to be there. I'm here. Here I am. Okay, so let me see what I did this year so far. I went to the Masters for the first time, played Augusta, went to the College World Series for the first time. And Florida won the national championship later that year. But that's all I did that year. That was a pretty good year. All right, so that's this. That is that I was lucky to have been sent there all these times. Think about it. 8 times I've been there to the College World Series. One time, it was like 14 days. I changed hotels twice. I went from this one hotel, and I'm not making this up. If you looked out the back window of the hotel, there was a prison, barbed wire there. If you went to the right, if you went for a walk, and I did that every day, there was a FEMA place there. And then if you went around the corner, there was a halfway house, and people would be outside hassling you a little bit. But it was okay. So that was where I started. I ended up going to a cross town to another place that was a nice place, but it was way out of the way. And then finally got to that very courtyard that Jeff is at right now. And I love that hotel. It's right across from the dugout. You're near everything. It's close to Market Square. But any rate, I did all that and somebody else paid for it. That's the point I'm trying to make. I was so lucky. And I talk about this a lot. I've been so lucky in my life to be able to cover so many cool things, and somebody else pays for it. Now, you don't pay for everything. You have to buy your own drinks and everything like that. But, but for the hotel and flights and everything, the Gainesville Sun paid for it. I was very lucky. So the other is that last year, many of you know that my wife and daughter went, and with their family, they had a great time. They loved it. They've been talking about doing it again. And when they brought it up to me last year, I told them the same thing. I haven't told them yet this year, no thanks. I've been there 8 times. I love that I was able to go there. I'd much rather sit at home and watch it on TV. I'm too old, man. I don't want to deal with those crowds. I don't want to deal with those people. No thanks, but I'm so grateful that I got to do it. So that is this, that, and the other. Yes, get off my lawn too. Yelling at the clouds. Let's get some more cliches in there. All right, that's going to do it. I want to thank our great guests today and all of our great guests and all of our great sponsors every day. And a special thanks to Zach Rothrock for doing a great job producing the show. We'll be back Monday with Coach Spurrier. And don't forget, next Thursday, we'll have Brandon Spikes on. So it ought to be a lot of fun. Until next time, I am Pat Dooley. I am deep, I am way back, and I am out of here.